brought.
Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsport.
Drivers, start your engine.
Strap on your helmets and rev up your engines for Wheel People with Ed Lamberton. 2 hours of local dirt track racing. Ed Lamberton touches on local racing in and around the area. Wheel People is brought to you by Four Corner Tire, Elmo's Auto Body, Sampson Motor Car, Tanner's Lumber, and Adirondack Harley Davidson, where the mountain meets the road. Now, with your racing news, fast, Ed Lamberton.
Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Sampson Motor Car, Amsterdam, New York. Four Corner Tire, Elmo's Speed and Supply, Fonda Speedway Memories Facebook pages, Adirondack Harley Davidson, where the mountain meets the road, and Dairy Frost. Thank you for tuning in to Wheel People with Ed Lamberton. Now back to our show.
And a good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Monday night edition of Wheel People. Well, we beat our own time. We were 9 minutes late tonight, 5 minutes last week, so we're losing instead of gaining, but hopefully. And that was a little bit on both of us here. Anyhow, we're here, and our guests will be up starting at 7:30ish. We have, of course, Keith Flack, who picked up his first win of the season at Albany Saratoga, his, I think, fourth career at the Great Race Place on Friday night in the modified division. And as promised, we talked to Batman Peter Britton last week, and he had some conflicts last week, but he will be with us tonight. And to wrap things up, we'll be talking to Josh Coonrod, who picked up his first ever Pro Stock feature event. And we'll talk when we talk to him. I'll make sure, but I think I read this morning somewhere on Facebook that he has 48 feature wins. Of course, all of them coming in the Street Stock division. Josh, of course, moving up last season. And I thought he would pick up at least a couple last year. But I don't know. We'll ask him. I don't know how many second-place finishes he had last year, but there were a few, that's for sure. And finally on Friday night in the makeup feature, or the one that was rained out the previous 2 Fridays ago, he picked up his first Pro Stock victory. And we'll be glad to chat with Josh about his moving up, and he's been very successful so far early on his Pro Stock career, but that's the deal. So we got Keith Flack, Batman, Peter Britton, and wind things up with Josh Coonrod. I don't know, we did a shout out to our good friend Mike Bruno from Devil's Bowl Speedway, who will open his season, so he hasn't got rained out yet. Hopefully he won't ever this weekend as well, but they'll be kicking off their new season on the old new dirt track at Fairhaven. The big half-miler is now all dirt, and they've scrapped the inside dirt track and covered up the asphalt on the big one, and now they're going to go strictly dirt each and every Sunday evening over at the Devil's Bowl Speedway in Fairhaven, Vermont. And Mike has done a lot of work over there in the last couple of years, turned the place into a show place. And hopefully he'll have a great season running small block modifieds as the headliner. Or 602s, excuse me. 602s, I guess that's a wish someday that he will. He's going to have quite a few small block shows, but the 602s will be the main event over at Devil's Bowl each and every Sunday. So we'll see. He may pop in with us at some time and talk about that. But before we get into that, we'll talk a little bit about last week's activities. And, of course, due to Mother Nature, once again, this week it was Saturday nights again that was pretty much rained out throughout the Great Northeast. I believe there was 3 Sunday or Saturday tracks that did make it. Canandaigua was one of them, and they had a rain-shortened feature. They got 25 of the 30 lap modified feature in, and luckily for him, Alan Johnson had just taken the lead when the rains came down and they called the show. But AJ Slideways, Alan Johnson.
Slideways?
Yep. AJ Slideways. Oh yeah, yeah. That's he's been doing it well just so long. You brought that up. Alan Johnson. It was great to read a press release from our good friend Tom Skabinski, who of course was the longtime dirt media guy, and Tom kind of retired when Glenn Donnelly left, and has been kind of silent. However, he has come back bigger and better than ever. He is now working at the Land of Legends, the Canandaigua Speedway, for the new owners there, and a press release that has some meat into it, and Tom was always noted for that going back in history. AJ Slideways, Alan Johnson, of course, as most of us know. Richie doesn't know because he's just a young guy. He hasn't been in this sport for long, on this end of it anyway, with the modifieds. The AJ Slideways, one of the best drivers there ever was. Our good friend Bob McCready called Alan Johnson the best there ever was in his realm of time, and still winning. And let's see, I have this here. I just wanted to pop that in anyway, and being as we had it, Richie just asked about AJ Slideways. He has won a feature event since 1975.
Oh, wow.
Every year he has won at least one feature, some dirt track. This was his, I can't remember. I lost it here. Somewhere it was in there. He's crowding 100 at Canandaigua, but it was back on May in 1975 in a Corvair bodied 14. He reached victory lane for the first time and still winning. So you do the math, 75, 2015, it's 30, it's 40, 43 years. Alan Johnson has won at least one feature, and he already got that out of the way this year. He's been at the Canada 120. There it is, 122nd career win at Canandaigua Speedway. Okay, so enough of trivia there for Alan. Finishing second on Saturday night, one of the Saturday night shows I said that did get in the big blocks. Eric Rudolph. Finishing third was Justin Wright. Jimmy Phelps was fourth, and fifth went to Justin Hares. Everybody says, what happened to Matt Shepard? I think Shepard's won the first 3 at Canandaigua, at least the first 2. He was undefeated going into Saturday night. Apparently had some issues as he finished back in 17th spot. And then the last time Matt Shepard finished in the last 17th spot, he was on the hook. So I'm guessing that's probably what happened to Super Matt on Saturday at Canandaigua. We can back up just a little bit on Friday night, which was a good night. Everybody pretty much throughout the Northeast got their shows in on Friday. Back at the Ransomville Speedway, it was Mr. Small Block, Pete Bicknell, wrapping up another. And I think he's over 100 at Ransomville. Of course, he used to own the place. Eric Rudolph, who finished second to AJ Slideways at Canandaigua on Saturday, actually started off the weekend with a second-place finish, so 2 second-place finishes for Eric Rudolph this past weekend. Ryan Susi rounded out the podium finish at Ransomville at Can-Am Speedway. It was Brian Malcolm over Kevin Hartnett and Steve Davis. Then at the Outlaw Speedway, well, Shepard was not to be denied there. He has won 4 out of 4 so far. Shepard, I believe, well, he did pick up a win last night. We'll talk about that in just a second. Matt is on a record-breaking win streak again. Remember last year he won 41 feature events. He has 9, and it's not even June yet. So Super Matt, well on his way. Does that mean somebody on or no?
No.
Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. Somebody might pop in early here before. Anyhow, Shepard picking up the win at Outlaw again. He is undefeated. Brady Foots, who finished second, was leading up until about 5 laps to go when Shepard, who had started back in the 14th spot, worked his way finally by him to pick up another win. Corey Costa, Alan Johnson, and Eric Fisher rounding out the top 5 there. Then up the Mocock International Speedway, Mr. Tim Fuller, the New York executioner, as they used to call him on the late model circuit, kind of like that. And that's one thing that we kind of lack here a little bit. Not that we had a lot over the years, but the nicknames. You go on a late model circuit around the country, across the Midwest and down south and whatever, everybody's got a nickname. Of course, we know T-Mac, Tim McCready. Timmy Fuller used to be the New York executioner. And, you know, we have the Kentucky Colonel and Black Sunshine. And there's, you know, everybody's got one. But, can't get the announcers around here to get on that bandwagon too much yet. But hopefully maybe someday that might happen. Okay, up at the Lernerville Speedway on Friday night, Brian Schwartzlander over Rex King Jr. and Jim Weller Jr. At the Freedom Motorsport Park Speedway, say that 45 times, Matt Williamson picking up the win over Billy Van Pelt. That was their opening night. Brad Rapp picking up the win there, and that was all small block action. Can-Am Speedway, familiar name, different first name though. Jordan McCready, the young McCready, the last of the McCreadys, I guess. I don't know. They're, I think they're done as far as coming out. Of course, we had Bob, Tim, and now Jordan. He is the Timmy's brother, of course, picking up the win at the Can-Am Speedway on Friday night over Shotgun Billy Dunn and Danny O'Brien, the top 3 there. Those are all small blocks, so congratulations, Jordan. His dad and his brother won a bunch of features at Can-Am as they were starting their careers as well. The Brewerton Speedway on Friday night, that was their opening event, and it was Lightning Larry White picking up the win at his father's owned track. Jimmy Phelps finishing in second spot. Tim Sears Jr. was third. Willie Decker and Gary Tompkins all in the top 5 there. And yes, they still are big blocks, and they had 21, so a pretty good turnout. A lot of people are wondering how the car count was going to be at Brewerton with their sister track going to small blocks, and how many big blocks are going to hang around rather than go to someplace else. But it looks like they have a pretty good solid field there with Larry White picking up the win. At Autodrome Granby Speedway up in Canada, it was Steve Bernard over David Hebert and Steve Bernier, the top 3 there. And then we'll get to that one in a minute. Our own Albany Saratoga had another jam-packed events in all divisions and some great racing. If anybody ever wonders why they call it the Great Race Place, why it's packed, I got there a little after 8 o'clock, about quarter after, and figuring I was going to miss some of the features. However, they did have some issues with a generator and a few other things, but it was jam-packed. I had to look for an empty hole that I could stick the truck in. I parked almost down by the Ripe Tomato, if you know where that is. It's just amazing. But the racing was just fantastic, and that's why people go. At the Afton Motorsports Park on Friday night, Rusty Smith picked up the win. Kind of like that for a stock car driver's name, Rusty Smith. J.R. Hulbert finishing up in the runner-up spot. Mitch Gibbs, Jeremy Smith, and Darwin Green, our favorite Fonda driver. Darwin making Afton his home this year after starting out at Can-Am running Can-Am as a home track last year. Has moved to back to Afton again, which he was the years previous. Coming over the top 5. And Tribes Hill's own Craig Hansen looking for a place to go racing, getting tired of all these rainouts, and everybody that raced Saturday night tracks looked for some place to go on Friday because it looked pretty much like it was going to rain Saturday, and it did. And so Craig Hansen with a top 5 finish down at the Afton Speedway on Friday night. Brad Rutherford picking up the win at Accord Speedway over Danny Tyler, Tommy Johnson, Rich Rickey Jr., and Danny Creedon. Then at Woodhull on Saturday night, we move into, these are 3 Saturday night tracks, I think, something like that. Woodhull, Bob Davis over Billy Van Pelt and Dylan Grover. Then at the Land of Legends, we just said Alan Johnson, his 122nd feature win, continuing on 44 years of at least one feature win since he started back in 75 winning, that is. Rudolph, Justin Wright, Jimmy Phelps, and Justin Harris, as we said. And one rare off night for Matt Shepard as he finished out of the 20s back in the field, so to speak. At the Tri-City Speedway out towards Ohio, I believe it's Pennsylvania, our guest just a couple of weeks ago, remember, has made the move to late models and is living on a couch in his owner's back room out in Ohio. Mike Maresca jumped back into a modified and picked up the win, so congratulations, Mike. Jim Royce was second, and Chris Hines rounding out the top 3 there at Tri-City. And at the during the Canadian Nationals, just want to check my phone here.
Everything going good?
Okay. Mike, oh, okay. I see what he said. Mike Bruno just texted me quick. He said he's been flat out, which I can relate to. Sorry he missed, but, Mike, if you're listening, if you're not, you can, jump in anytime here if you want to give a little plug for Devil's Bowl. We'll be glad to take your call. At the Canadian National Series up the Cornwall Speedway, Steve Bernard over Kerry Terrence and Brian McDonald. That was on Saturday night, so it didn't rain in Canada, I guess, on Saturday. Then Utica Rome Speedway canceling again. I believe I know they have one feature in so far, I guess. And it's just, the weather is just nuts. It's just absolutely crazy. And so Utica Rome pulling the plug last night. However, Weedsport Speedway finally was able to get a show in on their limited schedule, and that was a modified and Sportster, or not a Sportster, excuse me, a winged midgets show. And I guess who won that? Mr. Matt Shepard picking up the win at Weedsport on last evening's event. And then, of course, over at the Glenridge Motorsports Park, the they call him the Little Bear. Dave Constantino, our guest last week, picked up win number 2 in a row. And one of the other winners so far this season at the Glenridge Motorsports Park, Tim Hartman Jr., was involved in a, I guess, a single car crash pretty much, but destroyed the car. Luckily, Tim Jr. is fine. The car is not. So we'll have to see if, I'm sure they have another one. They can get it back for Friday night's action. Actually, it's a different car, but a tough break for Tim Hartman up at the Glenridge Motorsports Park. Much better, a good turnout of the best turnout they've had so far this year. 4 cars up at the Ridge, and as soon as I can sort through my pile here, I will tell you about the. Okay, that's those. All right, we can do this. And momentarily, we'll be getting a call from Keith Flack here to talk about Albany, Saratoga, which we need to get to here in a minute as well. At the Glenridge Motorsports Park, 11 Pro Stocks. It was Cousin Luke handed the win after Justin Knight, who picked up the win, came across the line first. However, post-race inspection found that he had a valve spring issue. They have a new tool this year, a go or no-go tool for valve springs for 602s. It was a no-go for Justin Knight. Tough because he had a great run in the Todd Offenholm number 8K. So Cousin Luke, who had won the previous week, got another win on Sunday night. Ron DeLeese, Buck Gasner, in his best finish out with the new Pro Stock number 99, finishing in third spot. Ivan Jocelyn was fourth, and Chase Alsucker rounding out the top 5 there. And as we said, 11 Pro Stocks showing up at the Ridge. In the limited sportsman, it was Derek McGrew Jr. picking up his second win on the hill, and one more for him, and he'll have to move up with the Top Gun and run with the sportsman. Greg Braun was second in the limited over Dave Reicher, Robbie Alea, and David Bosseclair rounding out the top 5 there, and 10 of the 11 cars in the limited sportsman as well. And then, as we said, in the 602 sportsman modifieds, as they call them there, Dave Constantino picking up win number 2. A first time back after a while. He used to be a regular up at the Ridge. Tony Ferrone finishing in a close second spot. Actually had passed Constantino on a late restart, but Dave was able to drive by on the top. So a good run for Tony, finishing in second. Bobby Flood was third. Stephen Denton and Chris Curtis rounding out the top 5. 15 sportsman modifieds, and that's their biggest count yet. So a good night for Glen Ridge with a much better field of cars in all divisions. So a good night was had by all, even though it looked like it was raining. It was going to be not so nice. It turned out to be a lot better. Okay, so over to the other local track to get in the show, of course, was Albany Saratoga on Friday night. And again, a packed house on both sides of the fence. It was Keith Flack picking up the win. Keith started in third, and you know.
This call is being recorded.
Okay. And to speak of
Hello.
Speak of the devil. No, not the devil. The winner on Friday night. Just getting to that rundown, Keith, and congratulations, your first win at Albany this year. I believe that was your 4th overall at Malta.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
Okay, and pretty much everybody sitting in the grandstands when the lineup came out. Okay, Keith started third. Yeah, that should be his night, and it turned out to be that way. However, it was not as easy as it looks on paper. That's for sure. You did get to the lead. You did get to the lead early, but throughout various stages of the race, you had all of the top guns there on several late restarts, and you were able to hold them off. Ronnie Johnson, who of course has already won a feature there. Ronnie has had a great season start at Albany Saratoga, and looked like he was going to be able to do something with it. And of course, Brett Hearn, multi-time champion and multi-time winner there, looking for his first win of the season, was there. Mark Johnson, past champion, was there, and Jeremy Wilder also thought that he had a great shot at running. He was the only one on the bottom. All the rest of you guys were up on top. And the guy who I really thought, and unfortunately I've seen him do it to you a couple of different times at Albany Saratoga, was Kenny Tremont. Tremont looked like he was running you down, was able to do something with you, and then as things all shook out in the last couple of laps there, Ronnie ended up second, Brett was third, Mark Johnson fourth, Weiler was fifth, and he went from third to fifth in the one restart, and Tremont fell back to sixth. So I don't know what happened to all them guys in various stages, but through it all, you were pretty much spot on. I gotta say, and I'm sure you probably felt the same way, maybe not, but on lap, I think 5 or maybe 6, you hit the berm, which was the whole story of the night, actually, hitting it right gonna flip this thing. And I don't know
Yeah,
what
no,
did it feel like in your seat?
it feels probably as bad as it looks. Honestly, it's when the cushion's kind of like that on any given night on any track. You just gotta kind of hit it right every time. And there was many more times than that that weren't quite as bad, but probably half a dozen times throughout the race, including about I think there's about 3 or 4 to go. I caught a bad one in 1 and 2 as well, but. It's just the way it is, and it's the way that was working for us. And like you said, starting up front, it definitely gets your confidence up when you're starting up towards the front. Unfortunately, we had some pretty bad luck on opening night there with 2 DNFs that were not anybody's fault or anybody's doing. We just had a motor failure on the one car. And then the second one, we must have caught something on the track and got a right rear flat running second or third there, and when we did that, it took the brake line off. But it was good to be able to rebound Friday. Like you said, starting up front, it's definitely a confidence booster starting up there, but it's never easy with the field of guys we have there for sure. When the first restart double file, I saw Kenny Tremont pull up next to me, and I'm saying, "Oh, great, here we go."
Yep.
We're gonna have to really fight for this one, and same thing with Ronnie on the couple of restarts after that. Hearing all the guys rattling off on the one way for the lineup and stuff. I thought we were gonna have our hands full, but fortunately we were able to get some good restarts on all the restarts, and we were able to hang on there. So that was definitely a good confidence booster after the start that we weren't looking for. So
Right.
definitely good.
Yeah, and I don't know. It seems like you're coming in and out as far as I don't know if you're moving away, but you're coming really good when you're up close to your phone. I don't know if you're on the phone or what, but I can hear you. But it sounds every once in a while it seems like you fade back. So if you can, whatever you do, stay close. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no,
But there you
I'll
go.
keep a little bit closer.
There you go.
Sorry.
Thank you. Uh, but I also want to talk about some of those restarts because it's not it was him. The
okay. Because they were saying
right.
they couldn't hear each other.
Okay. Yep. Yep. Okay, we're just doing a little fine tuning here on this end, but I could hear you, but yeah, I couldn't see that. Okay. Yep. Okay, people are on Facebook saying they couldn't hear anything. Well, okay, so that's your fault. Okay. Just talking to the engineer. Sorry, Keith. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Hopefully you guys can hear me a little better now. I readjusted here. So.
Yep, that's very good. I can hear you perfect. Of course, I could before, but we'll see. Okay. Anyway, we're talking to Keith Flack. In case you haven't heard before, no matter what it says on the screen, must have hit the wrong button here. It says we're talking with Peter Britton. That'll come later. So anyway, we can actually tell the difference between you and Pete because you don't have that little accent that he has. So I think we could figure that out. Okay. Now, the restarts towards the end of the event, as we said, it seems like all the fast guys that were moving anywhere, you had to be on the top. The track was actually good all the way across, which is great for the fans because they were 3 and 4 wide behind you. I know you had the luxury once you get out there of being kind of free by yourself most of the time, even though you knew that there was people behind you. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But on the restart, I saw you took, and it happened in some of the other divisions too. Guys are running the top, took the bottom, and the inside on the restarts, and is that and it worked because you guys figure you get a better jump between coming off between 3 and 4 on those restarts. You figure the bottom was a little better, so you were able to jump out and then move right to the top across. And we've seen other competitors in that last Friday night doing the same deal. But was that it? Rather than starting on the top, you figured it was a disadvantage to be on the outside coming off 4?
Yeah, the way the track typically gets on a given night up there is the middle gets pretty slick and there's not a lot of grip, and the outside was so far out in both ends of the track where the cushion was pretty far out compared to some normal nights. Just with the double features, or I don't know what was going on, but the last 2 weeks it's been pretty far out. But
yep.
There's always a little bit of moisture down off the bottom of turn 4 there. So
okay, yep.
all I replayed in my head, I told the guys, after the race was when we were at Charlotte last year at the end of the year. And, Charlotte's pretty high-speed track where guys are kind of running the top or the middle most of the time. And
Right.
the first night, Shepard gave up the bottom to Williamson. He was able to get a good enough jump and then pull the slide job going into one. So, I felt like I was a little more in control running the bottom on the restart. And, hopefully I got a good enough run and could move back to the top.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it panned out, but if it didn't, we definitely would have been a little bit of a sitting duck. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when the track is like it was, when the top is the place to be. I know it's probably goes through your mind, but I say you've got enough experience now to know, where the track is better and where it isn't. And apparently everybody took your stead after that because the other divisions that ran after you all did the same thing. The guys were running the top, but on the restarts, they got on that bottom, so that was the deal. And kind of figured that. A little better.
Yeah.
A little better bite coming off the bottom. Okay. Well, that's also, and another, I don't know if we want to throw this out or not, but I got to because obviously you had switched, 2 years ago now to Billy the Kid Motors? Or was it?
Yeah,
okay.
it was 2, maybe 3 years ago. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. And I know that's what it said on your hood. However, and I will not give my sources, but sources tell me, and I'm not, just picking on you, but that was not a Billy the Kid motor that you had in Friday night.
No, it wasn't. We unfortunately we've had a bad start to the year in the motor department. It's not anybody's fault. It's,
Right. Yep.
Some freak stuff happening, but we had a minor issue at Lebanon Valley opener the first night, and then the one the previous Friday, and we were a little bit down on motors, so we actually had different manufacturer in for just that car for Friday, but we should back I think tomorrow or Wednesday we should be getting some back from Billy, so it'll be good.
Right. And I know Billy. I'm sure you had the option too, but I think he loaned. He has his house motor. he called it. I can't remember now, but he loaned it out.
I think they call it the house rat.
There you go. That's it. Because he loaned it out to somebody that won down the valley a week ago or so, or two.
Yep, it was LJ Lombardo.
LJ, that's right. Anyway, I just thought, and like I say, I did not ask this information. I was listening when it was told, so I didn't want to give Billy, even though he certainly deserves the credit for that. But
definitely.
The other thing that the informant, I guess we'll say, told me that you personally, obviously, you went to Billy. You don't like the motor that you won with on Friday night, but boy, it sure was a good piece Friday night.
No, it's definitely a good motor too. We just I've been used to Billy's stuff for the last couple of years, and it's a little bit different. And his is just a little bit smoother for my liking, and it's just something that I've grown to like. And it's probably a little bit mental thing too. But when you throw something different there, it doesn't react the same. Then
right.
The traffic gets a little bit unhappy about it. But no, it was definitely a good piece still. And my guys gave me a great car.
Yeah.
To take advantage of the starting spot that we had and stuff, and it was just an overall good night.
Yeah, and like I say, the reason you started up front was Kenny Tremont. We kidded with him last year. Kind of went through somewhat similar, maybe even worse, in problems at the beginning of the season, and started. I think it was third that night that he won too, his first win of the season early last year, and he said, "Yeah, it's really." You hate to start up that that frontage because if you're starting up that front, you've had a bad year so far. So
yeah, definitely.
So, but it does make it nice to pull the win off when you start there. It kind of puts more pressure on you, I guess, to do well when you're starting up there. But you guys have had a great run at Albany Saratoga. Certainly last year, this year, always up in the top of the points. So it was no fluke. The surface this year, and again, I have to admit, Friday night was the first I had a chance to get over there because of work problems. I don't have enough help. That's my work problem. But as far as a fan go, I thought it was one of the raciest surfaces I've seen in a while. Like I said before, they were 3 and 4 wide in pretty much all divisions. All divisions were battled right out to the end. And talking with several competitors on my quick jaunt through the pits, I didn't have a chance to catch up with you guys. They're all telling me it's been like that, every week so far that you've raced over there. Pretty much the track has been the same. So I guess that's a good thing. So you know what to expect.
Yeah, I don't know. I know he's doing some different stuff. I don't know the specifics of it, but
yep. Nope, you just cut out. All right. Can you hear me? Because I can hear nothing on your end. Okay. Let me check. If I don't know, Keith, if you can try to call me back. I think somehow or other we lost you.
I'm back.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what happened there, but
okay.
My call failed for some reason. But
all right.
it's probably because we live in the woods in the rural area of town.
Yes, I can relate to you 100% because I do the same, and I wouldn't live anywhere
but,
else.
I was just saying, whatever he's been doing, from a driving standpoint, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure. If it's fun for me, I'm sure it's very fun for the fans to be able to see guys be able to move around and make some good moves and stuff. So
right.
Hopefully they keep it up, and it's a good year overall for all the divisions for having some good racing going on.
Yeah, and as all racers are, and there's certainly a few guys that had some not issues, but said they would like to see less of a berm there, and I'm sure that probably a few who had caught it the wrong way, kind of like you did, but and really had some issues. Of course, Don Madison took a pretty bad flip. I did not see it.
Yeah, that was a pretty bad one for sure.
Yeah, and I guess that was all just catching the berm at the wrong time, and that is part of the problem having that. So a lot of guys said they would like to see him knock that down. He's not going to do that because we talked to Lyle last week, and that's their philosophy. That's why people go there, is because they don't mess around with the racetrack. When they get it, you race on it, and everybody has the same track, and don't waste any time and keep on going with it. But you actually obviously used it a lot. You would like to see it maybe knocked down a little bit, or?
It definitely makes it more tricky.
Okay.
Like I said, you have to hit it right. Obviously, there were a handful of times that I obviously didn't hit it right either. But I'd like to see it maybe not quite as bad. It's just the last couple of weeks and the next few weeks, I think they're in a little bit more of a time crunch because Lyle's typically been pretty good if it's starting to cause any kind of issues, if it gets that bad, if it's like a wet week or anything, we have an abnormally large berm.
Right.
He's pretty good about trying to knock it down and help guys out. I think we had, I think there was like one sportsman guy that went over, and Don Madison, a couple other guys just caught it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We're running them double features, every week for the next few weeks, trying to make up from a few weeks ago. And
right.
It's definitely putting a little bit of time crunch on stuff, but overall, I didn't think it was the worst I've ever seen, but it probably would have helped certain guys. Obviously, it would help Don Madison in the heat race and stuff. But
right.
It's just one of those things where if you catch it wrong, it's not good. But if you catch it all right, then it's it's not as bad as you would think looking at it. But it's just one of those racing things. You get that various parts of the year depending on the weather.
Oh yeah. Well,
like it goes.
Yeah, like I say, as a fan, and you obviously you just said as a driver, it was a fun track. I always, and again, I wouldn't want to see the berm, much more than it was. So it was a real big factor. But I think it just tests you guys. I mean, obviously, you're all great race car drivers. Even some of the younger guys that getting more and more experience all the time. So I guess it's the old adage, suck it up, Buttercup, and we'll see how good you really are. And you did. And I say that, well, and you were everybody, I think, Ronnie went over it a couple times, not enough to lose a lot of spots. Kenny, that was one of his, he went over it pretty good, a little bit farther into turn 2 than you did, and that's
Yeah.
where he lost a lot of spots. And so, but again, that's why I say that's how hard you guys are racing. Though you're you're going for it, and the other thing is, talking with guys over the years, and Brett Hearn was one of the first ones to tell us about it a couple of years ago. He said that the issue with 1 and 1 and 2 is the way the lighting is at the speedway, and he said that's the only thing he would ever fix about Albany Saratoga is the lighting in 1 and 2. He said the way the lights are, you cannot really see outside. You can't see that top groove, so you kind of have to have a feel for it, I guess. And I guess that's what you were doing on Friday night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's when the. I think what he's getting at is when the berm is that far up, like right on the edge of the track, the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely is a little bit harder to see where that is because you're kind of trying to look for it, and the banking drops off there on the other side of it and stuff. So, like I said, definitely makes it a little bit tricky. But we're all in the same thing, and we all got to try to figure it out. And,
yeah.
There were some times that, like I said, I didn't figure it out either. But
yeah, well,
it's just the hand we're dealt, and that's the way you got to deal with it.
Yep. But like Brett, who's won pretty much everything at Albany Saratoga over the years, said that was the only thing he could change. And I've talked to other drivers too. Said 3 and 4 for whatever reason, there's not an issue there. You can see real well pretty much the whole track where the grooves are and stuff. But 1 and 2 seems to be just either the way the track's banked or whatever. But you also got to remember. You also got to remember, Brett's a lot older than you, so his eyesight, is probably going a little bit. So that's probably part of it. But and with that said, again, sources go. This was back down in Volusia, I think we were talking about it. Some of my I got some people. I've been doing this for 50 some years, so I've learned the people you can talk to find out, things that Well, it wasn't a big secret, but somehow or other, what happened, and I don't know, it's up to you if you want to explain or not, but you and Brett Hearn got hooked up this season as far as car prep. You're actually, as I understand it, now you can straighten me out, and then that's one of the reasons why I wanted you to call tonight, other than the fact that it was a great race on Friday night. What is the situation now between you and Brett Hearn Racing? You take care of Brett's cars for the series?
No, that's
or
actually my cousin Mark, who used to
Oh,
race,
okay.
and then he got hurt.
Oh, okay.
And so his Flak Performance Products, he makes radiators,
Yep.
oil coolers, and stuff for the cars.
Oh, okay.
That was something him and Brett and Brian Madsen had worked out for
Oh,
him
okay.
to start doing that.
Yep.
So
Okay. So then there's no conflict when you get out there. It's hard.
yeah, no, there's
Yeah.
sometimes we'd probably like there to be, but there's not really any affiliation with us. So
Right. Okay.
that's Mark's deal.
Okay. Very good. Okay. So I get my flags mixed up, and I apologize for that.
Yeah, no, it happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of us for sure.
Yes, and all great racers. And by the way, for those that tuning in late, and now that all our sounds are up and everybody can hear us again, and don't believe it's like the Wizard of Oz. Don't believe what you see on Facebook. We're not on the phone with Peter Britton right now, and I can't find. That's part of my problem. I don't know all this new technology here. We got some new equipment here, and I haven't found the right button to put the right name down. So we got. So whatever you say, they'll blame it on Pete anyway. So that's fine. but just going back for those of you that are joining in this evening, weren't with us when we talked to Keith last year. Just a little bit of a background, the family background of flag racing. I mean, there's, like you said, there's a lot of flags, but all have been very successful. Certainly at Lebanon Valley, where that's been your Saturday night home for, God, I don't know. Does it go back to your grandfather?
Yeah, so
Yep.
my grandfather was there in the late 50s and the early 60s. I think he quit in 62 or the beginning of 63.
Mm-hmm.
And then, nobody was there for a while, obviously. And then my dad started in the early 80s, went to about 1990 over there, and won 2 championships. My grandfather won 1 championship.
Yep.
And, Mark ran there a little bit before I did. He was a little bit older than I was. And he got a championship in, I believe, 09.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been there since, I think, 2007, 2008 was my first year.
Okay, so we're looking at 10 years.
We've been there since then, and
Okay.
you know, we're still aiming. We've come a little bit close to a title, but we haven't quite gotten there yet. So,
Yep. So that's
we're keeping on trying.
right. That's one more thing on the bucket list is to join the rest of the Flax and get that championship down at Lebanon Valley. And you know, the way things are going here, you know, got a shot at Albany Saratoga, and I know that's always something to think about. I mean, a lot of people have come from Lebanon Valley over to Malta over the past years and haven't been as successful. It's a totally different whole deal. What can you learn? I mean, obviously, any racetrack that's like Albany Saratoga, where you can come from the back to the front, and but the difference in size of the track, the difference in the banking, is there anything that you can transfer from one to the other that helps you?
I mean, not really as far as like car setups or any kind of thing like that. Driving stuff is, you know, they're kind of different. There's certain things you could probably transfer over, just, you know, fuel wise and things in the car. You know, the Valley's actually been relatively, you know, slick as far as surface this year. And certain times last year too. So I mean, that would definitely help you on a track like Malta, where it slicks off a little bit as far as throttle control and you know, trying to feel what the car is doing and stuff. But our biggest thing has been just the fact that we've been running the Super Dirt Series the last couple of years. And, you know, getting out on a lot of surfaces out there, because you're racing places like Weedsport and, you know, in the past Canandaigua or Land of Legends now. You know, various tracks out west and up north and stuff that are typically a little more slippery than, you know, the Valley had been in past years. And, you know, just doing that, you know, on different surfaces and trying to adjust to stuff like that has been our biggest thing as far as, you know, trying to get a little bit better. But
So
like I said, there's certain things you probably could transfer from a place like Lebanon Valley, but definitely nothing chassis wise or anything.
Right. And it's all racing, and seat time is always good, no matter what. And I guess that's actually you answered my question. My next question was going to be about the Super Dirt Series. Of course, like you said, it's what, 3 years now. This will be coming on the 4th year.
I think this will be our fourth full season that we're gonna try to do here. So,
right.
It's been a struggle, but we've been learning a ton, and you know, racing more with my guys that are on the road. We have 2 or 3 of us that go on the road pretty consistently. And you know, me and Andrew in particular, my crew chief, you know, we've just been working really well together, doing as many races as we've been doing, and you know, trying to figure some stuff out. So all that stuff, you know, it's like any other sport. The more you do it, the more you get to practice at it. You know, the more seat time you get, the more you're going to be able to figure stuff out and learn the stuff and use the stuff you're learning and trying different things. You know, both driving style wise and you know, chassis wise. You know, it's definitely all been a big help. You know, it's been a struggle too. I mean, there's been a lot of races on the series that you know, we wish we had a reset button like a video game on.
Right.
But, you know, overall, it's been a good experience, and I think it's helped our team grow for sure.
Yeah, and speaking of Andrew, of course, you know, we talk about the Brett Hearn connection here. Andrew did work for Brett, right?
Yeah, he did for I don't know, a number of years.
Right.
Probably 8 years or so. We worked for him,
Yep.
and
then you
he'll end up coming over with us. And you know, we clicked a little bit to start, but it's like any other new relationship where it took a little bit of time. And you know, we showed some good speed and good signs early. He came over. The first year was 2012, I believe. And you know, we started to get a little bit better. But like you said, and like you know, like I said earlier, it's been the last probably 2 seasons we really started clicking since we started doing the traveling stuff. So you know, hopefully we can continue to grow and you know only get better from here on out as things go well.
Yeah, and well, let's see. I'm not making a correlation here either, but our good friend Jake Hasmore joined you 2 years ago too, which you know, he used to be with Brett, and so it sounds like you know, everybody's getting together, and those 2 guys worked together in the past, but it's all our knowledge is certainly, I think, you know, Jay's probably one of the, and I don't think anybody will argue with me, one of the better tire guys in the sport. So that certainly could help. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely one of the smartest guys I know as far as that stuff, and you know, he's able to, you know, we can give good feedback back and forth, and you know, him working with Andrew for so many years definitely a plus too. So you know, it didn't really take them long to get gelling back together and stuff, you know, because they were only apart for a couple of years. So like I said, everything's kind of come full circle between the team and myself and everything. And, I'm excited for this year too. We've obviously not started off the way we wanted, but, we got some series races coming up here to try some different stuff and learn. We have Weedsport next Monday starting off after we had 2 rainouts ready to start that, along with all the weekly stuff having rainouts. But hopefully we can get going on a good note here and see what happens.
Yeah, and with that, and I don't know, I have that here somewhere, but I can't. Did I miss it, or did you not qualify? I'm not sure. I can't believe that happened. Weedsport last night, you did not go?
No, we did not go last night.
Okay.
We got a 6-month-old here now, so
Yep.
it being here, we anything that's not for any kind of points, we're trying to take a little bit of a back seat and get some
Gotcha.
Get some
Yep,
family time going.
Absolutely.
We only get one shot at having her this young, so.
Absolutely. Yep. And congratulations, by the way. Forgot about that too. I can hear her in the background.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're doing everything point wise. We're gonna try to hit all the series stuff. It's for points, and obviously everything weekly. But we weren't really ones to travel that much outside of anything points wise for us to begin with. But we're definitely gonna focus a little bit less on that stuff, even more so now.
Okay. Well, that's fair, and we see that happen a lot. Life happens, and racing is certainly very important. Certainly, the Flack family has been involved, for decades basically, and but the family is still the first thing. And I know your family's very family oriented. Let's say it that way too. It's yes, enjoy it while you can. That's for sure. And it's just
we're trying.
Kind of a cherry on the top here to have some good runs coming along as well. So that's basically the schedule then, Fridays and Saturdays locally here, and then doing the Super Dirt Series and.
Yep, and then we'll wind up doing definitely one, maybe 2 shows. My father-in-law does the Thunder on the Hill series down in PA.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
we're going to try to hit a couple of those that we can. We don't have any small box stuff, but actually next Sunday he's got the Memorial Day show with Big Block, Small Block Open. So we're going to go down to that and support him for that, and any other ones we can. But
cool.
Aside from that, that's pretty much it. Probably for extra shows.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's still, most guys have a heck of a job just doing one night a week. You guys are doing, 2 plus the series, so you'll probably get in. Hopefully in a perfect world, if it ever stops raining, 60, 70 shows, I would think, before, and that's still pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate. My wife loves me enough to support me that much.
Yeah,
sure.
Right. Yeah, and it helps out. Now, do you have? Is Andrew, full time? Is that what he does during the day? Is work on the cars or? Yeah.
So he's full time.
Yep.
He's there during the week, 5 days a week, and then he goes with us on the road and stuff. And does what he can with that. So we definitely work him very hard. I'm very thankful that he's still on board for doing that many races and trying to keep up with it. So that's a good thing too.
Mm-hmm. And you're, as I said, you switched to Billy Kid Motors a couple of years ago, and not only you, but a lot of people have in the past probably 4 or 5. He's all of a sudden exploded and one of the top guys that people go to. And I'm going to ask. Well, it's obvious you wouldn't have switched if you didn't think it was going to be better. But I asked Kenny Tremont I think it was last year or year before, whenever he was able to run some of Billy's stuff, and I said, "Well, is it worth the money?" And he said, "Yes." So I guess that's, but I guess that's
it. We've been very happy with Billy's
Yep.
stuff. We've got a great relationship with him and his son Curtis, and
Mm-hmm.
they've done a lot for us. Trying to get us on track and getting us up to par where we need to be, especially in a place like the Valley. It wasn't anything personal with our previous engine builder or any of the ones
No,
we've used in
right.
the past. We just, you're always looking professionally to get all you can, and
Yep.
Billy works very hard. Him and Curtis, they're always searching for something new and trying to up the game and trying to get the next one up on
right.
All the competition and stuff.
Mhm.
And we've been very fortunate to get hooked up with them. And like I said, we've had a couple issues to start the year, but that's nobody's fault. We're not weren't upset with them, and they were, there was no, no bad blood or anything like that.
Right.
I don't know what people think about that, but there's no bad blood. It's just some freak stuff that happened, and they're getting us back squared away, and we should be back in good shape starting this week for getting some of the ones that had some issues back. So
right, and a lot of
they're definitely worth it. We've had a good relationship for a few years, and it's definitely helped turn our program around along with everything else that we were talking about before. So.
Yeah, and I say pretty much everybody that I've talked to that has Billy as their builder said that he is obviously he gets I don't know, I'm talking for all of them, but he gets a good dollar, but everybody feels as though they get their dollar's value out of him because he and his son, I do know, travel a lot. I don't know. I don't think they're down the valley every Saturday, but they're down there quite a bit, and they travel.
Pretty much every week, I'd say. I think they only miss 1 or 2 weeks a year.
Okay, yeah.
But that's another thing that we really enjoyed about the relationship we have with them. They've got a bunch of customers there. They show up weekly.
Right.
He comes down to Charlotte and some of the series stuff Dewey shows up on, and I think to be honest, he was a little bit more upset with the 2 issues we had than we were. We were obviously upset, but it just goes to show you how much a guy like him cares about his product and having things go well. So. Yeah, that's another positive that we found, in dealing with him.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I've heard that from everyone that has his his stuff. That he's there. If you got a problem, he's there. Or he'll do his best to take care of it. And not to say that the other guys don't do the same thing, but he's like you say, he does show up at the races, and does help his guys out. But so with that said, now you make the choice to. Run the series, and we have a discussion here every week with our modified guys about the switch. Now here we go again, for like the 3rd or 4th time. I know your family's been in it a long time. I've seen it as well as an old guy like me. Pushing the 358, the small blocks back again, a couple of the tracks going to that on a full-time basis. Pretty much Canada is all small blocks. Pennsylvania small blocks, and so we got a little bitty niche of big blocks. You've kind of put your apples in that crate. Are you hoping, or do you see that there is a problem there with the big blocks?
I've talked with a lot of drivers, over the last year or two. We all get talking about it. Especially now more so it's in the discussion with Fulton and some of the places you could go in the small box and whatnot. And I think there's definitely a problem as far as how much you have to spend to be competitive at certain places.
Mm-hmm.
Not every track that runs a big block needs high product motor. But like for us, especially in a place like the Valley, you've got to spend a good chunk of money to be competitive. And
mm-hmm.
It's unfortunate that's the way it's gotten, but it's been pretty open motor rules, since the beginning really. So
right.
Everyone tries to up the ante as far as technology and stuff, and obviously technology costs money, and I do see that there could be a potential issue in the next maybe 10 years or maybe even sooner, but there's. You want to see them do something. I don't think anybody wants to see big block racing go by the wayside, overall. I think, like you said, it's its own niche. And I personally, small block's a lot of fun to drive, but, you get a big block going and stuff, for me, that's a little bit more fun on my personal taste.
Right.
I think big block racing has had a good, good stretch, since its, creation, but,
mm-hmm.
We're definitely going to have to start looking at, what's going on with the, motor program and start trying to look into some more options, like the small blocks are coming out with the W16 and some of that other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It's, a lot of guys don't want to see the writing on the wall like that, but, you see, some of these places that are going to not necessarily a crate, but, a spec option, with like 3 or 4 options of different spec options.
Right.
And, the crate class in particular, you look at most of the tracks for the, 602 Sportsman, and, car count seems to be thriving at almost every track you look at as far as that class goes.
Oh, yeah.
I think Fulton's had a good car count for the small block with switching for the first year already. I think they've been around 30 cars or so.
And, it just makes it more affordable for some of them guys that are kind of on the fence, between classes. I think there's a lot of guys that run the Sportsman class that would have previously loved to run the 358 class or even a big block class, but it's just, such a big step for some of them guys to go from, a crate Sportsman motor that costs, $4,000, call it, with, all the additions, and going to, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 mid block, you know what I mean? So,
Yep.
As much as some of the guys don't want to see it, and we've got a lot of stuff too. You don't want to see it happen overnight for sure, but I think they definitely have to start looking into some more of that. I know they were trying to do some stuff a couple years ago at the Valley, trying to get some other options together, but it hasn't really quite panned out so far. But
yeah, they got to find something that's competitive, and that's the problem now, and it's the problem that guys that have, like your team, and most of the teams, certainly all the teams that run the series. I don't know, Pete, have you joined us yet?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
What's going on?
Okay. We're talking to Keith Flack. I don't know if you did. Peter Britton on the other line, Keith, so don't say anything bad about each other.
I never heard of the guy. What did you say his name was? Yeah, well, by the way, Keith, I never got to see you on Friday night, but congratulations on the win, mate. That was really cool. Glad to see it.
Yeah, thanks. It's definitely not the way we wanted to start the year off, but there's a little bit of redemption to be able to take advantage of the spot up there. So it was good. And, congrats to you last weekend, too, while we're talking about it, with the 2 wins there. And that's good to see, too, picking up where you left off. So it was good.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Yeah. Hopefully we can both keep having a good year, right? Well, at least, hopefully you've got over your troubles now anyway.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have any starting for sure. So.
Yeah. Well, Pete, I don't know when you joined. I'm sorry, my other screen went down here, so I couldn't tell. But we're talking about this big block thing, and obviously, Keith as doing the series as well as you. You actually are going. We talked about it last year. Full feet in. I mean, you want to do this for a living, and running the series and all this stuff, and then now with the big blocks, dwindling off in numbers because of the great cost. And we talked to Tim Fuller last week or week before, and he said he hopes that the big blocks never die. And Keith's kind of saying the same thing. And obviously, Pete, this is where you're looking hopefully to make your bread and butter for the next so many years anyway. But like Keith said, you got to see the writing on the wall. Would either one of you have a problem if somewhere down the road, 4 or 5 years, hopefully, whatever, Dirt says, okay, we're going to do this. You got this year, and then next year, everybody's on W16s if they keep the purse the same. And that was Fuller's whole complaint about the whole thing. Well, yeah, they're going to let's go to small blocks, but they're going to drop the purse as well. And there's $15,000 difference between a good big small block and a good small block. But to run for less money just really doesn't make it. Either one or both of you, just your feelings on that.
Yeah, I don't know if we quit, the big block deal, and all of a sudden the upper level of the sport was a W16 motor. I think I'd probably quit and find something else to do. To be honest.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't mean to sound like I don't know, like an egotistical maniac or anything like that, but it's
nope.
It's and don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the W16, and I think it's a great thing for our sport and the small block deal, and it's good to have a strong small block class too. But at the same time, you need that upper level of the sport, and I think my personal opinion, I know we've lots of people have had these discussions over a number of years now, and I believe the biggest problem that we've had the last few years is there's been no feeder to a big block. You've had to go from a sportsman car straight to a big block, and I don't believe the rule package for the big block motors is as good as it could be either. And I think with a couple of tweaks, you could make big block racing a lot more affordable. And and like I said, I want the small block division to be doing well, because you want guys to want to make that transition from sportsman to small block, from small block to big block. And the big block deal, it gives our racing something different to market. You know, like if we,
Right.
like people say, hey, you know, we want to run these open small blocks. Okay, well now we're just running late models. You know, now we're the same as a late model. You know, and it's cool when we take our cars down to Charlotte. We'll race them with the late models and the sprint cars, and hey, you know, big blocks are coming on the racetrack. Like, they don't call us modified; they call us big blocks,
Right.
and that's what we've built our identity around for so many years now. And if all of a sudden we're not going to run big blocks anymore, then like, what even are we anymore? You know?
Okay, yeah,
in my opinion.
no,
So
you're-
and people like that about our cars too. It's a very marketable thing, and so I don't want to see the big blocks go away at all. I still believe that should be the upper level of our sport. Do I think the rule package needs to be changed to make motors more affordable? Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
And,
we were talking. I don't want to jump on you, Pete, but we were talking with Fonda promoter Pete Demontrazic last week, and Pete's been in the, not only promoter, but he worked for one of the premier racers around here, CD Koval, years ago. So I mean, he knows the nuts and bolts and the motor system and all that. He said that pretty much, I think that's what you're talking about. He said the motor package for the big blocks really got off the last couple, 5 years or so because of the heads. If they either eliminated these 18-degree heads, and I know drivers are out there, oh my God, geez, we just got these cars are great now, and they're easy to handle, all just like we were talking with Keith earlier, they're drivable and everything else. But the extreme expense of these heads, I don't know, you hear figures all over the place, 15,000, 20, whatever, for a head. It does kind of make sense. Is that kind of what you're talking about, Pete, is the rule package? Are those heads the biggest cost problem we have now with the big blocks?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It doesn't cost you any more money to build an 18-degree head as it does to build a 23-degree head, as far as we're talking castings go. The change, the money it takes is, okay, well, I had 23-degree heads, now I have to buy this 18-degree head. So, and you can't sell your used stuff for very much money, and you got to go out and purchase new. So, you know, and wherever there's an open head rule, you know, guys are going to come out with something faster. It doesn't matter whether you change degrees. You know, in reality, I mean, it is part of the problem, but to me, the biggest thing is partially in education, because most people don't realize that you don't, like, racing majority of weekly racetracks, you don't need a 900 horsepower motor.
Right.
And people don't realize that.
Yep.
You know, you still need a good motor, you need a drivable motor, you need, you know, newer technology. But, you know, like the Valley is one of the rare cases where you need absolutely everything you can get. And so I think,
and then some on top of that, Pete.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
So, those particular tracks are the ones where it becomes tricky, because, you know, because the easiest way to fix the whole power perception problem is open up the cubic inch rule. Say, hey, you know what? Whatever you think you can put down the racetrack, build it. And if you can do that without having the latest, greatest head, then you're going to save a shitload of money. Excuse my French.
No,
but
that's right. We're on the internet. We don't. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
But the problem is, the only problem with that is you get the couple of racetracks like Lebanon Valley, like Charlotte, like Volusia, where you can use a lot of horsepower majority of the time, and that's the only place where it becomes a little bit tricky.
Right.
But talking about a weekly big block track surviving, I mean, you can, like, come feature time just about everywhere. I'd like to know somebody that is all the time going around at full throttle around a racetrack in a big block. And if they are, I'll shake their hand, because I can't get anywhere near to do it. So, and that tells you, it's, now we're not talking about performance of the motor. And so the cost, and that's, to me, that's the beauty of big block racing, is small block racing, you got to put everything you got into that motor and try and make it as good as you possibly can, because you don't have enough. Whereas big block racing, you've got more than you can handle for the most part, now it's up to the driver to drive the car the best, and the smarter guys were set up to set up the car the best. And now, between those two combinations, the person that can use the most horsepower effectively is the person that's going to win for the most part. And to me, that's what's racing. That's
Right.
racing to
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
I mean, racing shouldn't be who can build the best small block and have an extra 20 horsepower and win every race.
Right.
And racing should be just who can control a beast of a race car that's pretty hard to control.
Right.
And that's why you always see the best drivers come to the front in big block racing. And, it's tough. Don't get me wrong. You got to take your licks for a long time and learn how to drive these cars. And I went through the learning process myself. And it's hard sometimes to stay motivated because it's so hard to get used to running these cars. But it's, to me, I mean, that's what racing's about, is to learn a skill and get better at it. And then if you can master the art, then you deserve to go out and win race.
Okay. And Keith, your thoughts. I mean, Pete hit on, I think, a lot of good ones there. There's no doubt about it. But the same question, if Dirt says, okay, we're going to go to W16s, are the Flack family going to retire from racing too? And
I mean, if I'm on board with Peter, I don't want to see big block racing go anywhere either.
Yep.
I mean, it's like the World of Outlaws sprints. The NRA guys are going to 305 instead of 410s, an alcohol.
Right. Yep.
But if that's the way they were going, I would probably do it for a while, and then if it wasn't any fun or anything, then I would try to reconsider. But I agree with a lot of the points he said. There's a lot of things that big block racing has done for racing in general and stuff, and I don't think anybody wants to see it go anywhere. We just got to try to modify some of the rule book stuff and whatever, and try to find a common ground, with track promoters or directors of series or anything like that, and try to make it so that you get more for what you got and stuff out of there, and try to make it last a little longer, and look into other options too. I don't think anybody knows the answer, because that's they probably would have found it by now. But let's just start looking at other avenues to try to come to a common ground with everything.
Right, and like Pete said, Lebanon Valley, which is your home track and has been your family's home track for as we said, since the 50s, has always been that. And like you said, Howie has tried a couple of times to actually do a couple of things like Pete said. He had that one motor that he was trying to get you guys to try, which a few of you did. I don't think you did, but which was unlimited. I don't know what it was, 500 cubic inches or whatever. It was
a big cubic inch, and I think you had almost like the small block option. You had like a spec'd out head that you could run that you can only do so much to, but you could you could open up the cubic inch limit and stuff. And
right.
It's just I think something like that would probably take off. A lot of the places out west and stuff, but a place like the Valley, if you're still allowing open motors, it just wasn't quite what you needed to be competitive. I mean, you could start in an area, towards the front and probably maintain and probably win some races with it. But, with everyone else running the open motors, it wasn't, it was the type of thing you're going to start 15th, like somebody like Brett come to the front and win, But,
right. And
like I said, there's got to be options out there with the rules and stuff to try to figure it out. But, like Peter said, I can guarantee you from firsthand that, our Valley stuff, when we go to Weedsport and some of those places, we're trying as much to get the car hooked up better than we can even think about or dream about, just because, you have a hard time putting the power to the ground sometimes.
Right.
So, that's just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Keith, again, we've kept you long here, but I really appreciate it. I always like to have two drivers going back and forth because you guys know a whole lot more about it than I do, and I know the listeners as well always like it when you guys get going. But we're going to let you go. Other than, certainly your whole family, Gould's Rigging and the Flack companies, and you guys are have worked hard, your whole families, to build up some pretty good name for yourselves and all your companies and everything you do, and you're certainly very good supporters of dirt racing. But who else helps you get out to the speedway each and every Friday and Saturday and the series?
Just my family first. My wife, my parents, my entire team, Andrew and all the guys. I couldn't, especially with having a 6-month-old. I definitely don't get to the shop as much as I'd like and stuff. So I got to thank those guys for keeping it going. When I can and stuff during the week. So got to thank them. Our family businesses and Big Mel, Billy the Kid, everybody that helps us out.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't do the stuff we do without all those people. So it's good to have everybody helping out.
All right, and I'm sure we're going to be chatting again. We'll get get you on again to talk some more about this whole future of the big block some later down the road, because we like to keep running this around. Sooner or later, somebody's going to come up with an idea that's going to work here. But again, congratulations, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last. At either Albany, Saratoga, or I know you're looking at that first series win. That could come this year. The way you're kind of going on this uphill battle here.
We can only hope. It's as hard as it is on a Friday at Albany, it's magnified by about 50 with the guys in the series.
Right.
But,
yep.
We're just going to keep plugging at it and see what happens.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Keith.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Keith Flack, Friday night's winner at Albany, Saratoga. Now we're going to quickly swing over because we're running longer than I know we gave you a lot of time, and you got race cars to work on because the series is finally going to kick off. One question, Pete, it actually the whole ties into one I wanted to go back to start with. There was a little concern for all us fans, your fans, this winter when you didn't or couldn't make the Volusia show and you couldn't go over back home for your dad's show that you've gone back for year after year because of some back issues. I don't know if it's awful personal, but just get in. What is it better now, and whatever it was is over with, or is it something that we're going to have to keep an eye on?
I guess it's better than what it was.
Okay.
I guess the best way to describe it now is it's at a manageable state.
Okay. Yep.
It's not easy, and I'm sure I'm not the only person out there with back pain that just has to deal with it. But it's obviously being magnified by the sheer workload that we have being racers, working on the race cars,
right.
Driving the race cars, bouncing, through ruts on the racetrack, and driving the hauler to the racetrack, and just everything. You never really give your body much of a break at all. So
right.
it is hard to manage a back issue when you've when you're pretty much doing everything that the doctor
right.
tell you not to do.
Right.
Yep. I guess it just comes down to how badly do you want it, and what are you willing to put up with to keep going. And at the moment, I guess I want it bad enough, and it's just I'm hopeful I can just work through this year and just get through it, and then next year, in the off season, and maybe next year it might be at a point where you're where it's somewhere back to where it should be. But it's just there's no quick fix. It's a lot of physio, a lot of core strength building. I've been going in getting injections. It's just like I said, it's at a manageable state, and it doesn't. I guess the good thing is it doesn't seem like driving the race car makes it any worse. But, which is that was probably the thing I was most fearful of. That
right.
While the adrenaline's flowing on the race night, you'd be fine, and then you wake up the next morning and you can't move. And luckily that hasn't been the case.
Great.
But there's definitely some other things that I've realized that I can't do either. So I just got to stay away from the things that aggravate my back, and just do what I can.
Yeah, well, that's good, because there's nothing worse than a bad back, and I know a lot of us, certainly my age, have gone through that from time to time, and hopefully it's something that will be able to work out. I don't want to put any damper on the whole thing, but I remember years going back before you were not born, but Bob McCready. Bob McCready in his later years, my God, he'd get out of the race car and go lay down in the tow truck and the hauler, and he was just in agony. And God, I just can't believe the grit it takes for guys like that or yourself to get in one of these race cars where it's not the best thing in the world for your back, but like you say, he sucked it up for years. And like you say, you're not the only one. We know, Brett certainly had some issues here in the last couple of years, and it's that is what it is. But I'm glad to hear that it's not to the point where it's and you're still your joyful self in the pit so far, and that's usually somebody's got a bad back. Usually you have to really suck it up to act friendly, and so far you're doing that.
Your threshold's a lot shorter, right. And believe me, I think I am finding my threshold is becoming a little bit shorter now as well, and it's I don't know. I mean, and that's the thing you talk about these guys, Bob McCready and Brett and guys, but I'm 30 years old, so
yes.
I shouldn't be having the problems I'm having right now, which is I guess maybe the concerning part.
Right,
but at the same time, I have got age on my side, and things are more likely to heal up and hopefully go on the right course again.
Right. Well, Bob's son Timmy, had the same deal there with the Chili Bowl accident. There, his back is, and he's in his 30s as well. Maybe just a tad older than you, but he's So, these cars are rough. I know I talked to the old drivers, and they said that the first couple of weeks of the season, you really feel it for a while. Hopefully, the newer cars, and especially the late models, are just terrible on the body. There's no doubt about that. Those things are brutal. But you're getting these cars, so they kind of act like the late models. So it's probably not the best. But
I guess that is a little bit of a scary thing. Yeah, when you look at how late models handle, and you see that our cars are heading down that way. Yeah, it's who knows. Yep. I mean, that really might shorten drivers.
Yes.
Drivers' careers. To be honest, and I've actually never even thought about that before until you just said it then, but that's a very valid point for sure. Well,
I know Timmy actually brought it up himself. We were talking with him one night about the differences in he says, these late models will beat you up. He says there's no getting around it with the but like you say, in our cars, unfortunately, I guess they're looking unfortunately. The other thing is I missed, again, I didn't go down through the tow, and maybe I missed you, but and I talked to you Friday night. You said you were going. Did you go to Weedsport yesterday?
You wouldn't know it, but yeah,
okay.
I was there.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. I was afraid that was the answer, but I wasn't sure because I couldn't find your name in the results, and I didn't go back to see the heat races and stuff. But okay, so you had some issues, and unfortunately, just one of those. One of those nights you got to put behind you. Yep. We dug ourselves a little bit of a hole in the heat race, and we couldn't get out of it. Mm-hmm. So. No, fair enough. And God, like you just said, it's an uphill battle. Like say, you had the weekend before when back to back Friday and Saturday night, and hey, boy, we got this thing, and okay, next week, well, maybe not so much. It's just, but that's you bet.
As I say, racing is a very good humbler.
Oh
sure.
Yeah.
It's just when you think you got it figured out is when everything seems to head south for whatever reason.
Right, yeah.
But that's the beauty of the sport, and that's why we love it, because it's so hard to be at that pace week after week, and that and that's, like I said, it's a challenge, and that's part of the reason why I love racing, is because it is such a challenge. And as my old man would always say, if it's easy, anyone would do it.
Right.
And that's what makes it rewarding, is when you do get those wins, it's so satisfying.
Yeah, and that's like I say, going back to old Bob again, and the reason I keep I had a chance to talk to him there a couple of weeks ago, and he's still the same. He hadn't been to a racetrack in 2 years, but because of his health issues now at this point. But he always said that if it was easy, everybody'd do it. And then he says that one year he won 45 features back in the 80s. He said, but he says I ran probably 100 and some races, so he said I was pissed off half the time, and just satisfied the other half. So he says, so that's the life of a race car driver. He said, you got to try to
exactly. And the better you do, the higher your expectations become as well.
Yes.
So
right.
like 5 years ago, I'd be happy with top 10 finishes and you know, that kind of deal. And now, you know, now it's not good enough. You know, I've you know, advanced my career along far enough to where I believe I should be.
Yep.
If I'm not at the front, I should be challenging the front guys you know, basically every night. And so when you're not there and you are off your game, it's frustrating. And being off your game might be a great result for somebody else, and that's, you know, where they're at in their career.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
The frustration, it never seems to go away just because your expectations get higher.
Right. Well, you had probably one of the biggest frustrations back in October, where you're, you know, within a straightaway of winning the biggest race on the series, and you know, for whatever reason, it didn't happen. It's until you win that race, that one's going to haunt you.
Multiple words we could use for that one. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah. Sorry, but I mean, the fact that you were there, like you said, in anybody else's book would, or a lot of racers would have been, man, I almost won the big one, and I'm sure you will. But I say until you do, yeah. One of our old time racers used to say the same thing. You know, after you get that first win, you're not satisfied until you win every race. But that again, that's part of the whole deal. Before I let you go, and I know we're running along here, but just want to talk a little bit and about Maynard Troyer, of course, who was well. You came in late in the game, and really, you know, I don't know. Did Maynard? Did he ever show up at the shop? You know, since you've been there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I got to know Maynard.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I was, you know, a best friend of his.
No,
or
right.
anything like that. But I definitely, you know, I saw him enough, and he came around the shop enough, and you know, I'd see him away from the shop every now and then too. So it was. Yeah, I definitely got to know him a little bit, especially over the last year, and I think he, you know, even to a point might have started to develop a little bit of a soft spot for me as well, and especially with my, you know, I had a bit of a, I guess, a rise in stature last year, and he was very, you know, very happy to see that, and happy for me, and you know, was staying up to date with all my results, and whenever I was up at Troyer, you know, he'd come in and say hi and shoot the shit a little bit. So it was, yeah, it was cool to get to know Maynard, and you know, he was, you know, like I said, like you said, I kind of came in late in the piece, and it's not like I knew Maynard when he was running Troyer, but it was, you know, obviously he still just loved to stay in touch with racing, and what was going on up there, and you know, like to see all the things we were doing, and yeah, it's always a shame to lose somebody you care about, and some people that a lot of people in the racing industry care about very much. So it's a big loss for everybody, but at the same time, you know, he gave a lot, and a lot of people's lives were touched by him, and that's you know, that shows that he lived pretty well.
Well, that's why I say that's all you can ask for is people have the respect for you and the things you've done, and certainly many have done that with for Maynard. I'm old enough to remember, you know, when Maynard was racing, and the thing that always stuck with me, and certainly Billy carried it on when he took over Troyer Engineering, and now you're, you know, part of that too, pretty much. I guess you work down there during the week, pretty much, don't you, or not so much?
I
in the wintertime, probably.
Yeah, in the wintertime, I do some work up there. Yeah, I'm kind of floating around a lot of the time. This racing industry, you never know where you're going to be from day to day, depending on what's going on. But yeah, I was working there part time in the off season, and
but Maynard's,
you know, obviously racing full time, and you know, during the year.
But Maynard, and everybody's told you this, and certainly since you know, the last week or two since his passed, that you know, his whole deal was his cars were immaculate when he raced. I mean, you could eat off of them. They were always, I don't know if his crew waxed them in between the heat and the features or whatever. But of course, blacktop, it was easier to keep them clean, I guess. But always, and he carried that into Troyer himself, and even to today, you know, talk to guys, and Troyer, it's kind of, you know, pretty much since you've been there, and maybe a year or two before that, it's starting to, you know, get back. I mean, it used to be, that was the deal. That was the magic at Syracuse for years was Troyer, Goodyear, and Hutter. And they're all and they're all gone now, but Troyer's still there, and almost like I said, it was that close to winning another season ender up at Oswego. But his whole deal was immaculate. Everything in the shop was always good. And to today, people that have bought Troyers in the last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years said, that has carried on. Billy's carried that on, and whoever's working up there. They are one of the finest pieces made as far as, everything is right and everything looks nice. And it's, just that thing that Maynard had that, okay, we're not just going to have a bunch of tubes and weld them together and throw it at you and let it go at you. Everything is, of course, nowadays with the CNC machines and all this other stuff, it's a lot easier probably to do everything the right way. But it was just the whole deal that Maynard had as far as doing things. And now we got another crew just down the road from the studio here, the DMK guys, who are kind of carrying on from another Maynard Ferret, and doing a great job with it. So it's more competition for Troyer, but everybody is stepping up their game, and so looking forward to heading back now. Before I let, and this is the final question, the deal with Andy this year, is this the same, or are you taking care of the cars more, or they still doing the work down here?
No, same deal as
Okay.
last year. Andy, Andy owns the team, obviously.
Yep.
The cars kept at the shop there, and I guess that's part of the unfortunate part of the little bit of distance between myself and those guys. It's not like I can just pop over and work on the car at night time. It's
right,
a little bit more of a drive than that.
Right.
And just with especially this year more so, it's my back being the way it is. People might laugh at that, know me when I say this, but I work at a slower pace than I had previously, and it's harder to get things done, and obviously that makes it even more difficult to be able to get up there and help them guys out. So it's definitely really important and really crucial, and I'm so thankful for everybody that chips in up there, because that, if that car was relying on me to get it to the racetrack, it wouldn't be getting to the racetrack.
Right.
So I can 100% say that without those guys, we wouldn't be doing this deal, and they're the ones that get it prepared every week, and we really don't have too many issues. So it's they do a good job, and I'm thankful for the opportunity that everybody up there has given me.
Well, all the fans on this end of the state enjoy watching you get the job done at Albany Saratoga, and the place is just nuts as far as everything. I know you point to that as being almost the perfect setup. Obviously, Weedsport has maybe a tad better facility as far as that part goes with all that stuff going, but the fans and the pits at Malta is just, if anybody wonders why everybody goes, they ought to go once and they'll see why. I got there late on Friday night, and my God, I barely could find a place to park. And I know the pits were jam-packed. And do you kind of agree? I don't know if you caught us when we were talking with Keith. I talked to several drivers. And you were busy chatting with Connor Cleveland when I ran by there Friday night. But that the track has been pretty much the same every race so far this Friday night. And I don't know, you won one of them. But do you like it the way it is with the little pretty good berm on the top, or would you like to see? And that's the only downside I saw of a couple of drivers said they'd like to see the berm taken off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I always like options.
Yep.
If you've got a racetrack with options, then you've got a good racetrack as far as I'm concerned. I mean, am I a guy that wants to get up top and beat on a cushion? No, that's not really my style. But you take a guy like Jesse Mueller who loves that kind of deal, and he's fast up there, and that's what makes it exciting. I mean, it takes if we were all the same driver out there, the race would be pretty boring.
Yep.
So it's you need a lane for the guys that want to be bottom feeders. You need a top, a cushion for guys that like to lean against stuff. You need a little bit of a middle for guys that can be smooth and roll through the middle and pass cars and make it 3 wide. And if you have all those elements, you make a pretty good racetrack, and it's got to be wide enough. And the only problem with the berm is when it gets built up like it was this week at Malta on Friday. It built up too high, basically, like what you call a berm, not necessarily just a cushion or moisture up top, where now you're hitting it and the cars are taking off in different directions, and you can cause a bit of damage when it's like that. So that's not ideal, but you got to remember we're racing on dirt tracks, and there's a lot that goes into track prep, and to have a perfect racetrack every night is impossible. So all you can ask is, for the majority of races that we do, that we have a really good racetrack, and Lyle definitely does a really good job with that. There's not many times that you race at Albany there where you can say, I had a great car, I could have gone forward, but I just, it was only one lane, I couldn't get around anybody. I mean, you never really seem to say that after racing at Albany, and to me, that's all you can ask for out of a racetrack.
Right, and I'd say, as fan-wise, Friday night, like I said, that's the first Friday I've been able to get over there, that they were 3 and 4 wide, pretty much all night long in every division. So, he had a top, he had a bottom, and he had the middle. And it was, that's, pretty much a perfect racetrack. I understand there was a couple guys, and you had just mentioned that the berm itself was a little bit too much. And if you caught it in the wrong thing, it caused some issues, as Don Madison found out early in the evening. And, but Keith was banging on, and he missed several different times, and was able to still have enough to hold everybody off. It was all the elements of a great racetrack, and like I say, that was the first time I got here. But has it been pretty much the same every week? Obviously, because of the extra heat or feature races because of the rain out there, you got a few more. So you had 2 pro stocks this week. You had 2 modifieds the week before. Is pushing the cushion up a little bit higher there, just the number of races, and we're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think the track's been slightly different for every feature race we've had up there.
Okay.
Not completely different as far as night and day, but definitely there's been different elements in every race that we've had, and that's normal for dirt track racing too. And so that's part of the challenge. That's why you see guys that win one week and then struggle the next, is because it might look the same to the outsider or someone who's not quite as knowledgeable, but it really does. It only takes a slight bit of a change in a couple of spots to make it different. I mean, you might have had this one patch of bite on the bottom that was only a couple of feet long that you could hit the gas and get some momentum off to get off the corner, and then you'll pedal in the rest of the way down the straightaway. Whereas if that little couple of feet patch isn't there the next week, now you just don't have the momentum to get off the bottom, and now the top's too fast. It's really, it's so minute, the differences out there that can drastically affect the way the racetrack actually races.
Mm-hmm. And apparently there's been different spots every week, because they said that's the one plus about Albany Saratoga. You can start in the back and still come up. Now, you won at Canandaigua, the Land of Legends, a couple of weeks ago, and how was that? The new owner there. I know you've raced there in the past from time to time, but not as I don't know. Well, yeah, this would be your second year as a regular, or third, something like that. But
it's been a few. I can't remember exactly. I'm getting old now. I got back issues.
But has it?
Yeah, I've raced on and off there for a couple of years, just depending on what teams I was racing for and funding at the time. And he's doing a great job.
Okay.
Jeremy's forte was track prep
Yep.
and always did an amazing job with that racetrack. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's had any input with the new guys that have been doing it, or whether it's all on their own. But the track has been great. The start of the year, it's been
cool.
The biggest thing with Canandaigua is if it gets rough at all, or if it's just too fast, it's too big of a racetrack to be like that, and you really tear up parts and cars, and you just have a bad night, and it wears people out pretty quickly. So they've obviously listened to what the racers have said, and they said they liked the way Jeremy did it, and
Mm-hmm.
we kind of need it to stay the same, and he's done that, and it's been racy, it's been smooth, it's been slickish with the patches of bite, which there's been a bit of a top, there's been a bit of a bottom. You could roll the middle, pull slide jobs a little bit. So yeah, they've done a great job with the racetrack itself. So I'm definitely glad to see that's transferred over, and you can just tell that Paul Cole and the team he's assembled there, they're putting in a big effort, and they're trying to do things right. And obviously he's got a little bit of backing behind him where he's able to do things like put some new LED lights in. They've upped the purse, which is very much appreciated
Yes.
by all racers,
Right.
I'm sure, because
Yep.
and we all know in the racing business the bills outweigh the money coming in. So
Right. Yep.
whenever you can have a little bit more coming in, that's always appreciated, very much so. And they've invested in some. I believe they've invested in a big screen as well.
Yeah,
new
I've heard that.
scoring tower. And I'm sure there's lots of other improvements that I'm not even listing off right now. So that's cool to see somebody get into the sport and take over a track like that and just want to make things better for everybody. And you really do get the feeling from him that he just wants to make this whole deal work for everybody. So I think, and the general vibe in the pit area and talking to some of the fans is that everybody's appreciative. And yeah, I'm sure there's going to be times where not everyone's going to be happy, but
Yep.
at least if you know that you got a guy at the helm that's doing his best, then I think you're a little bit more willing to forgive when they do make mistakes versus when you feel like someone's just there to
Right.
maybe make a quick buck and get out or something.
Yep. No, that's good. I mean, a guy like him there, and the Shays at Utica Rome, they've been haunted by this poor weather since they took over last year. But
yeah, it's amazing, right? I don't know how they even sleep at night with just the bad luck they have.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
And
but
it certainly doesn't help even racers like yourself, because if you're doing this for a living and you don't race, you just don't. That's like not showing up for work one night. You're not going to get paid. So, but
yeah,
and
exactly.
and the Halmar deal with Orange County with Chris Larson, trying to revive that, and he is reviving that. New bleachers are going in as we speak, and it's only good for so you see these big block tracks that we're talking about hanging in there, and hopefully that'll carry on, and we'll come up with some kind of new rules. Hopefully, guys like yourself and Dirt will get together with the big block drivers and realize there's obviously an issue. We're losing 2 to 3 cars a year, it seems like, on a regular Saturday night basis here because of the cost, and it's time to really get serious about this, because sooner or later we're going to end up with 10 to 12 cars, and when you go down to Florida, you see what happens down there. It's not fun to go see 10 cars racing against each other in a feature. So then you
yeah, exactly, and that's the thing is big block racing is it's not as weak and fragile as what people think it is. Like when you take races like Florida, where I believe there was around 50 cars this year, wasn't there?
Yeah, damn close to it. Last couple of years, it's really got better. Yep.
Yeah, and some of these other bigger races that are able to attract the guys, it's the cars are out there. It's about everybody working together to make things, I guess, work for everybody. Like you said, there needs to be more discussion, with drivers and promotions, rule makers, whether it be Dirt Car or other sanctioning bodies, and just we all need to work together. I mean, the sanctioning bodies can't just purely tell everybody what to do all the time, and the racers can't get their way all the time either. I mean, but there's got to be sometimes there's got to be some middle ground, and we take advantage of the strengths we do have and use them more effectively, and I don't think we'll have any issues. And I think we are in a very fortunate state right now as far as some of the owners we have involved or promoters involved with some of the tracks. You look at and they don't all need to be the same either. You look at a track like Weed Sport that their aim is to make that place a showcase place where you can bring in big sponsors and kind of woo people a little bit and have this special event feel to it, and more of a bigger deal, bigger events, and it's like I said, it's a showcase piece, and that's great. You need tracks like that, but not every track needs to be like that. You take on the flip side of that, you take a track like Malta that's more old school, nothing flashy, so to speak, but everything's good. It all works. The pits are overflowing. The parking lot's overflowing. The grandstands are overflowing. I mean, how many racetracks can you say there's just not enough room for anything?
Right.
So that's pretty cool, and it's got that vibe. It's just got that friendly vibe when you walk in the gate, and maybe you lose a little bit of that vibe that Malta has when you go to a place like Weed Sport that's all fresh grandstands and it's got history, but it's a different kind of vibe, is what I'm saying. And
yes.
Both of those situations are needed in our sport. We need places like Weed Sport that's impressive with the the lighting, the big screens, the grandstands, and everything they got going on there. It's amazing, but you also need the tracks like Albany that aren't like that just have a really good vibe, and people, maybe the casual people, feel more comfortable there. Maybe they feel out of place at a place like Weed Sport. So there needs to be options for people to go and enjoy racing however they want to enjoy racing.
Right. And this is my third final question, I guess, but thank you so much. Thanks for, I don't know, our last guest, for some reason or other, we haven't been able to contact him, so I'm not quite sure here. So, but and this is just a silly question, but being that you are an Aussie, and the royal wedding, did you have a special party for the royal wedding?
Come on. Yeah, that's a cheap shot.
Yeah, no.
But no, I actually, obviously you hear about it going on. I think I turned on the TV one morning when I had my breakfast, and I was like, oh, I guess the royal wedding's today, because that's all you could find on TV.
Oh my God, yes, it was crazy. Now the only reason I ask is
it was brutal.
A former employee of ours became a veterinarian, is working in New Zealand, and she's getting ready herself to get married, so she was taking pointers, and they had themselves all dressed up in fancy clothes with the Iron Jack and the whole night. But
yeah, I guess maybe if my life didn't revolve around a race car,
right.
Think about stuff like that.
Right.
I got different fish to fry. I guess.
Yes. And like Keith with the new baby, I mean, yours is still pretty new, but not new. But hopefully getting more chance to spend at home. I know it's tough when you're raised, especially this time of year. But we appreciate you taking time out from your family, because I know that's important as well to spend some time with us, because it's always great to talk to you. Hopefully we'll be talking again down the road somewhere for that series win. It's got you and Keith. Well, you've had yours. But you want to get more.
Yeah, I got my first one now, like we talked about before.
Right.
Now that expectation's raised, and I got to get more of them.
Right. And
which I mean, that's why I'm in this sport, to keep trying to better myself and keep trying to get more wins.
And with Ray Graham's help, of course, this year you've got good stuff. Like you say, you don't need the 900 horsepower all the time, but it's nice to have it when that time arises. So,
yeah, when you need it, it's nice to have it for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So probably a weed sport this coming Monday. Probably won't need it all, but you probably have to go back to the drawing board. The weed sport, was the surface any different than it has been? I know they've gone through different transitions and different surfaces there, but
yeah, that place is tough to get a
Yep.
read on because it's almost like every time you go there, it's a little different again.
Yep.
You know, and I know that's part of, you know, they don't race weekly.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
they're always
Yep.
making improvements, and so you like it's almost like every time you go back there, something else has changed. But you know, in
Right.
this case, we had weather. And,
Yeah, that's
and
true.
nobody
Yep.
really, you know, we weren't even sure if we were going to get to race at
Right.
all on
Right.
Sunday. So I definitely applaud those guys for sticking with it and getting the race in. And there was the track wasn't the best, but considering the weather, I think you can give them a pass on that. But then in saying that, as the night went on, the track seemed to get a little better and started holding together a little bit better, and they, you know, got it rolled in and. You know, the parts that need to seal up probably sealed up, and I'm sure for the people that were there and watched it, it was an amazing race. So everyone got their money's worth, and it was a great show. And
Yep. Well,
so it was definitely a success.
As it turned out, it must have been okay because, well, Matt did it again. That's pretty much. I mean,
Yeah.
he doesn't seem to matter where he goes. He's usually there at the end. But I was just wondering if it's and you know, well, you worked with a guy for a couple of seasons. I mean, Jimmy is not satisfied. He hasn't been satisfied with the surface there since, you know, he's been promoting there, and he said we keep working on it, and hopefully, I guess he must have been up to his standards, or else he got a lot of practice time in, because he was leading the thing early for quite a while there until things happened. He had brake issues, I guess is what came about. But you know, he's a racer, and he's trying, and they'll get it. But it's like you say, it's been an uphill struggle trying to figure out the right dirt and all this other stuff. It's you know, you think it's tough being a racer, it's tough being a promoter, and trying to get this dirt to do what it wants to do.
Being a promoter seems like it's the most thankless job you can ever
right.
get,
Yeah.
and it's just, you know, because especially these days, I think everybody's threshold is a lot shorter, and it seems
Yep.
like no one's really ever happy anymore. You know,
Yeah.
so it's you're always on the brunt of. I mean, you're at the point where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. A lot of the time,
Right.
being a track promoter, and I feel bad for promoters a lot, because they do seem to cop a lot of unfair criticism, whether it be canceling too early, not canceling early enough,
Right. Oh, yeah.
you know, this and that, and it's just,
Yep.
yeah, I think that falls into the category. If it was easy, anyone would do it.
There you go.
And,
Yep.
It's definitely more so when it comes to promoting a track and prepping a racetrack, especially when there's weather in the area. So I'm definitely not going to be throwing out complaints unless I feel people aren't trying. And I feel like in this, you know, for the most part right now, I feel like everywhere I race, the people they're doing their best, and that's all. That's
Yep.
all I can ask.
Well,
for.
like you said, you just named, you know, the new people at Canandaigua, the fairly new people at Utica, and obviously some of the older drivers or the older promoters, you know, Lebanon Valley and Albany Saratoga have been doing tremendous. Actually, Howie had actually admitted last year that he had an increase in admissions, and that's the first time he could say that.
Wow.
And so he actually
that's amazing. Yeah.
He said, you know, we've been, you know, well, you know, Howard, you've been around it long enough. He said,
yeah, I've heard the line.
we've, you know, we're losing about 200 people a year, and that was his line for about 4 years. Now, last year he says, well, you know, we picked up the 200 that we lost the year before, so we're on the upswing.
Yeah, that tells you that things are working.
You're right.
Good out there, right?
Yeah.
And which is
Yes,
great.
right,
I mean,
right.
I want promoters to make money. I mean, that's the
Yes.
whole idea of why
Yes.
they're in this sport. If they can't make money at it,
Yep.
then why is your job to promote a racetrack when you're not making any money?
Right.
So I want the promoters to do well, because if the promoters are doing well, that means that fans are showing up. And if fans are showing up, that means they're enjoying themselves.
Yep.
And if all that's happening, that means there's more money in the kitty to give back to the races, hopefully.
Yep.
And that's, you know, that makes the whole thing work.
Absolutely. And with that, I'm hoping that the wife kept supper because we went way over our time. I apologize for that, but it's always great talking to you and to Keith as well. And I like to have drivers a little back and forth there because you guys know a whole lot about what this whole deal entails than I do. That's for sure. But again, congratulations on past weekend, and okay, let's like I say, you've had your off week. Now it's time to step back up and have a great holiday weekend here.
Mm-hmm. Yep, time to get serious again.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Yeah. Now that the royal couple is all welded, we're all set. You can go.
Yeah.
You can concentrate.
Yeah. Now that I got through watching the royal wedding, I can focus on racing again.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, Pete. Thanks again, and we'll be talking to you, and I promise we'll put a timer on it next time, so we won't tie you up so much because I know you.
I still don't believe you, but anyway. Thank you very much.
Thanks
I
again.
appreciate it. And
Good night.
I'll see you.
Yeah, Peter Britton, of course, Batman. And I'm not sure what happened to Josh. I tried to contact. I know he caught him at work today, and somehow we missed streams. Maybe he got caught and he had to stay to work later or whatever. But we definitely will get Josh Coonrad on here as soon as next week, hopefully. But we'll figure that all out. I want to thank Keith Flack and Peter Britton, who we joke every time he says, yep, 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes. I say, yep, 20 minutes. Well, it turned into an hour tonight again. So anyhow, we apologize to him for that. Hopefully you listeners enjoyed it. I always do. We'll be back next Tuesday if the engineer will let me in. If he sobers up by Tuesday, no. After the holiday weekend. Enjoy. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. And we'll be back on Tuesday with a special holiday show. Hopefully, if the wife won't let me come out again on a different night than Monday. But Monday, hopefully, we'll be big. And I got to say, I apologize to all of our Dairy Frost folks who have to wait in line maybe a little bit longer than normal, but I've never had a harder year trying to get some help than I haven't had this year, and I'm not making excuses, but I want to thank all of you for supporting us. It's been a great year. We lost a couple of weeks to get started, so we'll never get them back, but it's been just wonderful so far, and we thank you all for your support there as well, so a little plug for myself, but we're working on it, and hopefully within the next week or so after the holidays, we'll survive. If we survive the holidays, yes, no, we will. And we'll see you at the races. Don't forget, coming up this weekend, of course, the big Memorial Day shows. Fonda has the Empire Super Sprints there. The Patriot Sprinters will be at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway on Friday night. And Lebanon Valley and the Ridge also having some. And congratulations go out to Mike Perillo and Ray Severin at the Ridge. Some decent car counts on Sunday night, last night. And the racetrack had some issues, but that with the weather, it's amazing they even went ahead with the show as it was. And hopefully the car counts will continue to rise there, and we wish them the best. And we will work hard. I know it's hard to find time to get these guys on the show, but because they're busy, always working at the racetrack. But we will get the promotional team of Glenridge on here. Hopefully, maybe that'll be a good time next Tuesday, kind of a midweek deal, and we'll see how that all turns out. Again, Tuesday night, next week. Have a great Memorial Day. Stay safe. Have a great time on the 3-day holiday, and hopefully all of you will be able to stay up till 9 o'clock on Tuesday night to catch the end of the show. We'll see how it goes. We almost put our engineer to sleep tonight, but he's working hard, so it's that time of year when everybody gets ready. The spring is finally sprung here, and we got a lot of catching up to do because we missed a lot of it to begin. And Mother Nature stayed hell away on Memorial Day here because we need to see some racing here. And Monday night, of course, will be the first Super Dirt Series event up at the Weed Sports Speedway. And so if you want to catch some racing, you can do that. And, everybody else has got some special shows planned for the whole weekend. So go to a racetrack. Take a friend. Take somebody who's never been before, and they may come again, and that's all we can hope for. Until then, keep it between the boards. Have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend. We'll see you Tuesday right here on the Dirt Track Racing Network. Wheel People with Ed Lamberton. See ya.